I take it from the perspective that I am a lifelong learner, and the things that I do, you know, there are certain role models that I look up to. And I'm glad that as Africans, despite, you know, the damaging narratives that we had in the 80s and the like, we are beginning to see that there are great things that come out of Africa, that there are great leaders in Africa, some of the best in the world, actually. So we are not playing second fiddle to anyone in this world. So that's where I start. And having said that, I have seen great business personalities in Africa that have gone on to become some of the world's biggest, you know, business people in terms of income. So there are certain things that I learned from them, you know, like some, I will just pick two for me, those that apply to me. I have seen that some of the most successful leaders here in Africa, they take lifelong learning seriously. They believe that, you know, there is no one who knows everything, and you have to keep updating yourself in terms of your competencies, in terms of your mind, and also mentorship is also important. You have to look at those that have done it. It makes it easy for you to be able to also walk through that road, because they've experienced, they've gone through something, and you can learn a lot from them. Then secondly, I've learned the important issue of consistency. Very often, I think you have heard, FoLake, that we talk about starting, make that first start. Very often we hear about those words. But starting, if you are not consistent, if you are not good at executing what you have started, usually you don't get to that objective or to that goal that you wanted when you were starting. So I would say being consistent is one of the most important things for me, as I look at what most African people have done. And my role model, I'll say two role models. One is from Zimbabwe, the other one is from Nigeria. Okay. So from Zimbabwe, it's Strive Masiwa. Then from Nigeria, it's Aliko Dangote.
Yeah. No surprise there. Yes. All right. So it's 23 minutes after 9. I'm also quite excited for you to meet our guest of the week. I did tell you he's been here before. But also, more importantly, you may recognize him as the CEO of the Zimbabwe National Chamber of Commerce. Have I already given you a clue as to who our guest is? And we're going to be touching base with him in a minute. Don't forget that this weekend, it's the weekend. It's the Super Family Fun Day. We as Capital are turning, well, we turned a year old on the 16th, but we're going to be having a bash. Make sure that you're going to make your way to Motor Action so that you can be a part of all the hullabaloo that we're going to be having. Personalities, particularly in business, and I was challenging you to send us a list of your role models. Let's see who is on your list of people that you look up to, and do you know your children are listing as their role models?
If you or someone you know once had a lot of it and lost it all and would like to share your intriguing story, join the Saije Prime at Mnet on an epic show coming soon. To participate, call or WhatsApp 0788 555 909.
It's 9:24 on Capital 100.4 FM, Harare Zabit. So get ready, sit down. I hope you are seated on your desk. Perhaps you're still driving, that's okay. Just put up your volume a little bit, because I think this conversation is going to be interesting and useful to you. I have the absolute pleasure and joy of hosting the CEO of Zimbabwe National Chamber of Commerce this morning as we try to paint and perhaps even define what African personalities should look like this morning. I know you'd already guessed. Christopher Mugaga. Others know him by a different name, Rich Karanga, which I didn't know was you, by the way. Good morning. I was like, kana kune vanhu vaviri kucertain cc vane surname yakafanana wanike munhu mumwe. How are you doing? Mumwe chete. How are you?
No, I'm blessed. Thank you for inviting me. It's always a pleasure being part of this show.
Likewise.
Thank you very much. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Compliments of the season.
Same to you. Thank you very much.
So I'm trying to imagine Chris at, let's say, 16. Who were you looking at when you were 16? Looking up to?
Yeah, I think let me maybe give you a brief story in few words about me. It will maybe guide you on why I should look to who I look to. Being born a triplet, I was born a triplet, three guys born on a single day. So sometimes when you wake up, you ask yourself, so who can be a role model? So certainly my parents became the only thing I could think of.
Yeah.
Being raised by parents without a helper, a maid or what. Three guys, boys, we are still, all of us, alive. So there's nothing which can beat that, I believe. So that's the biggest I can talk of.
Wait, so you all look the same?
I don't know how to define it, but the other two, if I take one out of the studio and the other one comes, you will not recognize them.
What?
That I can assure you.
What?
That's how God can work wonders.
You are the first person that I've met of triplets ever, my entire life.
A very triplet I am.
What?
And we are all alive.
I have so many questions.
So you can have a picture of
Yes. So lest this conversation becomes about how to live as a triplet, let's put that to the side because it's quite a fascinating phenomenon that is.
Thank you very much.
So here you are, Chris. You are now the CEO of Zimbabwe National Chamber of Commerce. When you think of personalities that should be shaping Africa, what do you think are the sort of personalities we need as a continent right now?
Oh, thank you very much. I think when I picked also the amazing topic you have presented, I asked myself, a personality who is successful. Maybe let me take advantage of your question also to try to interpret what that success means.
Right.
When I was seated alone, I asked myself, just a few minutes ago, you were talking about footballers. If you have a footballer who plays so well, but without winning a trophy, maybe because the team is not the best team for him, can we say that footballer is successful or not? I think it can be a debate, isn't it? This also applies in life. When you look at someone who looks to be doing well in business, but there's not much money in their bank accounts, can you also then ask to say, are they successful or not?
Right.
So this then leaves a lot, especially to mentees who could be listening, to say, what is the color, the complexion of success? Can I be successful when my bank account is shaking?
Right.
Can I be successful when few people know about me? Can I be successful when my health is shaking?
Yeah.
So it's a plethora, it's a litany of issues, we can say.
Yeah.
But as I respond to you, let me just maybe list what I think could define those habits. And those habits, I try by all means to make sure we're as practical and as close home as possible. But your topic, speaking into Africa, it then means that person that's left to be. You can be from Zimbabwe, but you can't afford to be of Zimbabwe. There is a difference. Sometimes when you travel, you see a scenario where one can say, the way you are doing it, you should be from Zimbabwe. But I believe, come from Zimbabwe, but don't be of Zimbabwe. When you become that personality who shapes it at Africa level, it goes beyond where you come from. So first thing, you have to be 100% responsible for your successes and failures, which is one of the problems we have in society.
Right.
It's a habit. When things are going wrong, normally you shun the negative side and say, no, because it's negative, this cannot be me. What can only come out of me is something which is positive. So successful people, if you ask about the habit, you have to be 100% accountable and responsible for your life and your deeds.
Love that.
And if you talk to a lot of young people right now, they want to see you holding that iPhone 15. They want to see you driving that latest Ranger, but they don't want to see that person, the road they used to get there. Because the road they want is the highway. But before you get into the Bedbridge Machingo Road, sometimes they're coming from your rural home you're talking about. But so that's life, how it is. So be responsible on that.
So whilst you're on that one, you raised some very valuable questions there, because for a lot of people, I was just thinking, even in our creative industry, people in the creative space generally find that they may be popular, they may be well known. because we come from a space where, especially for Zimbabweans, we are the first generation almost coming from a colonial narrative, right? Where kuva ne bank account rasingawani 40 years ago. Kuva nemba, having a title deed was something, it gave you a sense of identity. Ukawana basa rinotengera mota musha wose. I remember every time my dad would buy a new car, vanatete vangu vaichima msodzi kunamatira mota zvimwe zviya nokuti unenge uri mufaro chaiwo chaiwo. So we are coming from a space where things helped us find a sense of an identity, you know, a sense of belonging as a people. Where we want to go, that success, sure, to make a sense.
You know, make a sense. It's actually very good. But the current core is, we also want them to buy those Mercedes-Benz themselves.
Right.
But even when they buy it, it's a necessary but not necessarily a sufficient condition to define success for them. Because very confident on family Mercedes, but people believe, if you talk to them, they are living hollow lives. They don't feel they are successful.
Right.
So, which is the reason, nasukatora vanofara zvebhora, kunotaura kuti kune team yakawina maliga akawanda kuEurope inonzi Arsenal. But if you talk to someone, they will say, but it's not a successful team. Why? They never won what they call a Champions League. So what's your Champions League life? Which people are pushing for you to say, once you win that one, then you can really say you are a champion. But success in material possessions, material possessions is not success. It's a reflection of success. But the problem with people, then when they see the reflection, the mirror, they think that is success. That's why when someone who is not successful, who could be driving the finest car, but doesn't have nothing in his pocket. Because what you are looking at as success is a shadow. Sometimes it is not their shadow. So it's important to have that picture when we talk of success.
It's the CEO of ZNCC, Zimbabwe National Chamber of Commerce, giving us a breakdown into what he thinks should be shaping our habits as personalities in Africa, especially towards business and success. And he was just saying, you know, what's your champion league in the things that you're doing? Are you walking around accepting and accountable for both your successes as well as your failures? Because somehow we've been cultured, right, that all we want to see on your social media. Social media is you looking good, looking fancy, and we forget that your failures are also just as important to who you become. And he was also talking about how material things are great, but they should only be a reflection of the success and not necessarily a measure of the success. So let's talk about, you know, daily habits. The team that you think will win at the beginning can surprise you. Third round. I might test up as one Cape Verde. So what are the sort of habits do you think we need to be cultivating on a day-to-day scale as we wake up? Steve was saying, you know, the people he looks up to, Dangote, and he has, you know, habits that he practices on a day-to-day scale to get him there. For you, you spoke about being accountable as well for your failures and successes. What else do you think is important for an entrepreneur or an African personality?
Indeed. I believe you need to visualize success. You know, most of the times, in fact, many times, the reason why a lot of people, if you were to be asked even in marriage why you are where you are, you could know possibly the source of that discontent or lack of progress is the next person who will be eroding that spirit of success. You know, there's someone you come from wherever, you go home and say, the way I think, the way I see it, I see myself at the helm of Zimbabwe's group. But it's a partner who will come and say, no, but look, I don't think you're even the best presenter, even if you are. So it's about connections, the people you spend time with, and your belief. But sometimes your belief is threatened by the people around you,
right?
Which is quite unfortunate. So if a lot of people, even in the graveyards, we had died very rich in terms of potential, but because of the environs they were surviving, they died poor. So never underestimate wrong connections. Wrong connections can usurp the whole energy of success you have. So believing in possibilities and that being cultivated. Because before you are what you are, if you look back, you will see that I actually thought about it. I felt it. I dreamt it. If you had never traveled with an aeroplane or went to New York, it's rare for it to come to your dreams, being in an aeroplane. You dream what you come across
Yeah.
daily and imagine.
Yeah.
So imagine it until you touch it. So you have to visualize success
Yeah.
before you are
I
successful.
love this idea of visualizing success. Can I actually visualize success? I see myself setting up, the most successful peanut butter making business in Zimbabwe, and we are selling 1,000 units every hour, whatever. Do it as say manje. Musoro ndazviwa nozvandoda kuti ndoda ta business redo, but what does that look like?
Definitely we'll move to those next step too. If you visualize, then what's next? Obviously, that's the $1 million question.
Yeah.
But what's more important for you is to appreciate, visualize that success is like this. But there are people who are in denial, who already also in their lives think they're already successful. But deep down, they know they are not. But the world has defined it. Pamwe mbinga yatonetsa kana kumana mari yange ikomba isi kupana kusvika grand. But nyika yadefine kuti mbinga yadi yasvika ipapo. But
imwe yakazofa isina shangu guru.
imwe yakafa isina shangu guru iroro. But once you visualize success, you acknowledge with what are my strengths, what are my weakness. If I'm a lawyer, what makes a good lawyer? Is it qualifying through university and getting the degree? Or is that ability to articulate issues in the court which will make you stand out? So once you start capitalizing and specializing in picking what makes you stand out, then you're visualizing success.
Yeah.
The problem with most people, even when they go to school, they think success will come because I'm holding a certificate. No. A certificate is like a bridge which can collapse before you cross the river. What you need is what you do with the certificate. So visualizing success goes beyond holding a certificate. And say, but as a lawyer, what will make this lawyer below my standards? And you articulate your oratory skill, your confidence, those are the issues. So you visualize it before you are.
Isusu tichikura taifange vana vechisikana kukangosvika 4-5 munhu wofanwa wabuda machira haufaniri kuramba wakavata, unotoyoka warirwa mubhedha uchinzumuka uchiri wakavatire wakavete kudini munhu havati. And we also have that proverbial munozorora wafa urumbenyu hakuna hope dzinoitwa. What do you make of that? Because we've also heard many other as successful voices speak to say, I only sleep 4 hours a day. 4 hours.
When they say it, I don't necessarily think the trick is in that time you spend. The reason why you sleep 4 hours is because you are productive. But if you are a busybody, you can sleep for 4 hours, analyzing and understanding the statistics of football. Football is being played right now. Normally, soccer, it ends around 12 midnight. Maybe 4 a.m. you have already waken up. So what is the definition of less sleep? You need to be as productive as possible. You have that paper by your bedside. What do I want to do? Can I tick boxes? Did I achieve A, B, C? You need to be disciplined. So in fact, I'm speaking into discipline. We can't talk of success when discipline is lacking on an individual. One day, if a camera, a CCTV was to follow you while you're walking in the CBD, but then you have to reflect after all these moves to say, what was I doing? So productivity is not about being a busybody. To what extent are you productive? You can work for 3 hours and still be more productive than someone who sleep just for 3 hours.
I get you.
So the trick, parents, when they were pushing us, I think they knew very well that why can't you maximize and take advantage of a longer day? You can do more. Even when you're mediocre, possibly over 16 hours, 3 hours of your time can be over. I grew up where my mom was quite a strict woman. She's still alive though. Every time when you sleep before 12 midnight, she'll knock your door into your bedroom, take all the blankets, put them to your room, push you to study. She'll come back at 1 a.m. to find out if you're asleep. So you'll be pushed until you realize, no, but there's something why she's doing this. So it builds the us as we grow up. So that's part of our thing.
Mairumbi, good morning. Mairumbi, you said these are the people you look up to. Okay. Mukati, you look to your paternal grandfather. He taught you English spellings. Your dad, he taught you Ubuntu. My mom, she taught me to be diligent and to persevere. This one is interesting. And Zvam Gabe, he's English. I wonder if you speak like him, Mairumbi. And you said, my Suluma, her music and voice. Thanks so much, Mairumbi. So this is your list of the people that you look up to. It's so good to see that they are very much people you recognize. We still want to know from you, who are the people that you put as the top 5 people you look up to? Who are your role models as you're sitting in, as you are going about your day, in your business, in your family life? Do you have people that you have looked up to? We have in studio, our guest of the week is Christopher Mugaga. He was giving us insights into what he thinks makes, the daily habits of a successful entrepreneur, successful personality within the context of an African. And if you also have, daily habits that you get into, I would love to hear from them. Chris, as you were talking there, I was just thinking about productivity. I think most of us, even looking at Zimbabwe, we come from a place where we've become so patient. Remember, pataimirira fuel, takamirira, pakauya kororo mazuva mshinzi munongopinda munhu 1-1, makamira 3 meters apart, tichita murabada yequeue. We got used to waiting, standing in queues, and sometimes it's not an effective way of being productive, of using our time. Musuno ndandiri mutown ndichiona vanhu vakamira paimba vane zimex mopaya varikutaura nyaya varikuto, and I'm like, and I couldn't help but wonder what it is that they spend their day doing. Is this a productive use of time? So when we talk about productivity there, what does that look like? Because sometimes you have frogs that you need to eat sometimes, and you don't want to eat it. There are things that are important and not necessarily urgent and important, or not important and not urgent.
Yeah, quite interesting. So when you're talking productivity without being technical, it's very important to understand it's just a relationship of your input versus what you are pushing out. When you say productivity, or how productive you are, how much effort have you put? Can you imagine, let me put an average young man who is trying in life. Things sometimes are tough, unemployment is high, which is a reality.
Yeah.
You come from home, you spend $3 maybe for transport into the CBD, and $5 for lunch. And you don't make a deal which gives you anything above that amount.
Right.
That's a clear case of how unproductive then you are. So then you have to balance to say, what is more important after a week, after a month, for me to continue these trips, $5 per day, multiplied by 31 days, over how much I'm earning or getting out of this. So once you see it's negative or your output is below what you're putting in, then you can certainly say, I'm not productive. So you can even push it higher in life to look at a company level. Say, to what extent is it productive programming or having this program when possibly promoters or advertisers are not coming on board? That's productivity. But it takes a lot then for you to reach that level. When you are trying, there's a learning phase. We normally say in life is divided into 3 stages. There's what we call the learning years. And most people put it at 0 to 30. Then from 30 to 50 is earning years. Then from 50 going upwards, not taking it away from those who are 50, you can still be very productive. They normally joke and say it's called yearning years. So there are years of learning, earning, and yearning. That's why sometimes when you then reach a level of 30 plus, you look at it, a lot of things. Do I have a house? Do I have a car? Do I have a wife, a husband, a what? You're under the pressure of that curve where we are calling then the earning years, but which normally doesn't apply when you're below that curve, which is 0 to 30. So productivity, you can also interpret it using that curve of learning, earning, and yearning. Yes.
Learning, earning, and yearning.
Yes.
Wow. It's 9:44 on Capital 100.4 FM Harare Zabi. We are also on our Facebook. Gift Katsa, all the way from Cape Town. How are you doing, Gift? You say you look up to VK Lionheart and Mr. Nigel Chanakira. All right, so those are the people that you look up to. It's good to see that they are people we recognize, people of color as well. And I'm curious to hear from you, Gift. What is it about Mr. Nigel Chanakira that you look up to in your daily life? Even VK Lionheart, what are some of those things? Are there habits that they have shown you over the years that you are tapping into? Interestingly, I've also, especially on this show, Chris, we've had the likes of Dagmar Mvura, who's so anchored in, Christianity, in his belief, in his faith. Prayer coming into habits of a successful entrepreneur. Do you think that's, how do you place that?
There's certainly nothing wrong with that. If you go even to Arab nations, I've not seen nations which are so spiritual in what they believe.
Yeah.
let's go back to the Arabs. Every airport, you go to Egypt, you go to Dubai, Qatar, wherever you go, they have massive prayer rooms at every corner of the airports. But the challenge then comes when you take religion as a substitute for working, which is a challenge we're having now. Sometimes I always joke and say, look at your pastor at church. Your pastor is sending a child to university. Even if the same one is God is coming tomorrow, surely if he was coming tomorrow, do you think they will send their children to university for the future? They are building big churches. Your pastors, that's confirmation that tomorrow is there. So sometimes the way we become so naive to think that a prayer will substitute my hard working, it's quite very sad. It's unfortunate. Look at a country like USA where you see mega churches. When I looked at statistics, actually, it was so interesting to know that on average, people in Europe, as a Christian, I'm a Christian, I'm coming from a background where I'm trying to bridge a gap, where we miss it sometimes when we think Christianity will just give me money. People look for miracles, which is unfortunate, which is, it's a criminal enterprise, I'll call it, because there is no substitute for hard working.
Right.
Most churches, even in USA, when you see mega churches, people in the West, they don't believe in those things. 85% of churches in USA, they say they've got an average of 400 people and below. It's only 5% of churches which you call mega churches. But in Africa, you come, you see people are quite very enterprising. They believe in every Sunday, Saturday, you go even midweek. They just think by praying, fasting, it will give them. No. You have to work. God can only bless you when you work. The work of your hands is then what will be the miracle. So being religious, there's nothing wrong. Yesterday I was actually at church, I had a good word. But after church, it should be that energizer, which gives you the fuel to progress.
Got you.
And for you then to run away from work and go for lunch hour prayers and think your boss will like that. Even yourself, you will not like that.
Let's talk about leadership and integrity. I find that sometimes living in a country where we are in survival mode, we will do the most to make sure that our children go to school. We will do the most to make sure that, we get ahead even in a very difficult situation. Let's talk about what integrity, what leadership looks like for us on a day-to-day scale. Tata baba Mugaga, baba CEO, Tishivaka, Vanavedu, and building our values. What do you think that should look like on a day-to-day scale for us as we are working towards some of the names that we've put on our list? Maima Tipa has also come in with her list. She's given us, she says, Hope Sadza, Baba Charles Charamba, Eric Vucevic, Arthur Marara, George the billionaire. And I'm sure, I would like to think, some of the people that you are thinking about as people you look up to are people who are hopefully people of integrity, hopefully people who seem to be leading by example. Say we still want to be people of integrity, we still want to be honorable, and yet sometimes it truly is survival of the fittest out there.
Yeah, quite said. They are what we call survivalist entrepreneurs, where your focus is what will I eat tomorrow? Will tomorrow come? So can I make a deal today? But that can also be a reflection, obviously, of a slowing economy, which we can't blame anyone on that. But what's more important as your own program is to build that person who lives today and the legacy exists 50 years, 100 years later. But I mean, when buses are still there, but those buses have disappeared. So integrity is everything, is the currency. That's why once you make a good name, when you go to a bank to borrow money, you don't go with collateral for you to get money. The bank will actually call and say, FoLake, we had already credited the account, but we are not sure, is there anything for collateral? But the biggest collateral you have is your name, the brand equity. So sometimes, even our youngsters, the ones they call their role models, it's because they are seeing it. Social media, it brought televisions before our eyes 24/7. Growing up, sometimes the television, you have to go home during maybe dinner time. The television is all you watch. Today, it's competition between your effort to work in that television through your phone. So some of the people, or you look up to, it could be because they are working hard. It could be out of ignorance also, because what you are using to judge success. I traveled to the United States the last quarter of 2023. Biggest shock I had a meeting at the Capitol Hill, you know, like almost as good as the Parliament of Zimbabwe.
Yeah.
You can't believe one of the top ladies who work at Capitol Hill is a Zimbabwean who is so influential than you can think. No one could have ever heard about that lady, but she's there at Capitol Hill. So then you ask yourself, if you're a youngster, to what extent can I look up to this person? Possibly few people, if any, look up to her. Not because she's not doing it, but because she's not in the publicity.
Right.
So when you're looking then for a mentor, if someone comes to me and say, can you mentor me? My first question is, what is it that you saw? Is it that you heard me on FoLake show? Is it the way I'm dressed? Is it the integrity? Because, I mean, look, how can I just wake up and say, be my mentor? When you don't know what I eat, how I sleep? Bad example, bad apple sometimes. So it's unfortunate when you talk of success for people. Success also includes integrity. And you do it in Chiva past studio, Panapa. You tange utarisa review mirror and chitsaka mapurisa yako nditevera umana because I don't lead a clean life. So that's not success. It's very important to emphasize that, which is quite unfortunate because most of us is the glamour, is the glitz. But when R. Kelly is now facing imprisonment, people be like, was that success? Is that really success?
Yes.
So it's so significant. Then one issue I also wanted to raise.
Sure.
Successful people, they do defy their backgrounds. You can't afford to say because I grew up in a poor background. Let me in summary give you a story of two people who were born by same parents. One was a billionaire, the other one a poor man who was a bank robber. The bank robber was asking, but why this behavior? Then would say, no, things are bad at home. We are struggling, nothing to meet. If I don't rob the bank, where would I get my next meal? But you know what the billionaire said? He said, I know poverty, where I come from. I have to work hard to run away from this background. So it's the same background, but people have different interpretations of the background. But what's more significant, I think, is to appreciate that never allow your background to define who you are. Some backgrounds can also give you heroes who are not the right heroes. Because in your locality, in your hood, the one who drives a vehicle, don't worry about the price of the vehicle, was a hero. Because in most of our suburbs where we grew up, taito vakadzimba that atise garage remota because takatoira that remota atikwanisi zvinhu. So munhu anenge ari hero ari mu locality iyoyo. But the more you grow up, possibly if you are not careful, then everyone who graduates to have a vehicle will remain your hero because of your background. You have to grow beyond that. To say, no, today I don't have a vehicle, but I know what a successful person is. And I will not measure that person by the material possessions I see with my eyes.
Right, and also because you've envisioned already what success looks like.
You see?
It's 7 minutes before we get to the news. I'm already sad about this. We're crossing over in a second to South Africa. Our favorite Pandora Mabai is going to be talking to us in a second, as she does Monday morning, giving us insights into, you know, some power show that you may need to get your day going. But we're learning this morning. Ashna makautika zvinori kufamba pasi, ashna makautika zvinori kugara kubudiriro, ashna makauti ukutadza kubhadhara rent. What matters is your mindset, how you have seen yourself in the future, and the things that you are doing on a daily scale. Are you accountable for how you are using your time? Are you accountable for your successes and your failures? Are you the kind of person who still chooses to stick and stand by your values? We're talking this morning about shaping African personalities in terms of business. And thanks so much for the list that you've been sending us. We're going to come back to the list that you've been sending us. But let's take a listen to Pandora talking to us from South Africa, as she does every single Monday morning, helping us become better and possibly inspired to win and to take control of our lives.
On this Monday, I think it is important that we look at the topic business success, especially